UFC Fight Night Vegas 20, Rozenstruik versus Gane takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, and what an amazing card this is as well, by the way. But we're going to waste no more time and start with the early prelim opener of Dustin Jacoby versus Maxim Grishin. This just shows you how great this card is, the fact that this one is opening up the early prelims. Two great light heavyweight contenders, new to the UFC, both of them. Maxim Grishin failed his debut against Marcin Tybura, but he took the fight on short notice, upper weight class at heavyweight, and Marcin Tybura went on to beat Greg Hardy. He's pretty good himself, so that's not a bad loss to have on short notice. He also lasted to a decision against Marcin Tybura, which is more that we can say about Greg Hardy, so a great job there by Grishin. Comes down to light heavyweight afterwards, his actual division, gets a bit of a camp, fights Ankalaev, beats him in the second round by TKO. Maxim Grishin is a great fighter in my opinion, and I believe we're going to start this card off with an upset win, with Grishin getting the job done against Dustin Jacoby, because I like Dustin Jacoby. I think he's a very good fighter. He got the job done against Justin Leday in his debut, but he got the job done against Justin Leday. And Justin Leday's on a 3-fight losing streak. Don't get me wrong, Antigolov's not a great win either, but still, Justin Leday was on a 3-fight losing streak. Arguably shouldn't have even been signed with the UFC anymore, but they gave him a fight with Dustin Jacoby. Jacoby gets the job done by first round TKO after some great leg kicks, then an uppercut to finish it. I like Dustin Jacoby. He had a little bit of a hairy moment on the Contender Series where he was winning the fight dominantly in the first and second round. Then the third round came along and it started to get a little bit hairy for him in the later rounds with the cardio, but oh well, I think he's going to improve overall. I do believe that Maxim Grishin's going to go out there and get this one done as an underdog in the opening fight of the card, because I think he can mix in the takedowns very well, and I don't believe that Dustin Jacoby has really been working on his game, because I'll tell you this, he took time away from the sport to do kickboxing. He didn't take time away from the sport and just sit on the sidelines and train wrestling the entire time and then come back when he's ready. He took time away from the sport to do kickboxing. Then that didn't work out and he came back to the UFC or came back to the Contender Series. I don't see him being able to stuff the takedowns of Maxim Grishin, and I do see Maxim Grishin going out there and just working a bit of a clinch game against the cage on Dustin Jacoby, wearing him down, slowly getting to him, putting the pace on him, eventually out-grappling him in the second and third round. I think Dustin Jacoby could go out there and win the first one, but I think Maxim Grishin has a real good chance of coming back in the second and third and getting the grappling game on and starting to smush Dustin Jacoby against the cage with his grappling, because he's a great fighter, been over at PFL, hasn't lost at PFL, he's been on a bit of a win streak before the Marcin Tybura bout, and again, as I said, short notice, up at heavyweight, not really the best situation to get a UFC debut, but still. The only other loss Maxim Grishin has had recently is a 4th round TKO loss to Magomed Ankalaev, who's now ranked and on this card as well in the co-main event. I feel like Maxim Grishin is being a little bit slept on here. Dustin Jacoby is not that good. I like his leg kicks, don't get me wrong, and I saw his leg kicks against Leday. I also saw them, don't get me wrong. But I don't think he's that good, and I think Maxim Grishin has proven himself against PFL guys that are pretty good, 12-5, 11-2, 15-4, 15-3, 19-9, 11-4, 10-0, 11-4, 11-1, has drawn 2 of those fights, but still has not lost any of those fights against great contenders and great talented guys outside the UFC. I feel like he's going to go out there, work a grappling game against Dustin Jacoby. The fact that he didn't really do too much grappling against Antigoelov early was mainly because Antigoelov is the grappler of the two of them, if there's going to be one. I think the fact that he's going out there in against a pure kickboxer in Dustin Jacoby is going to make Maxim Grishin lean into that grappling a little bit more and get the job done by unanimous decision, 29-28 in an upset to kick off the card. Moving on, up the card, Ronnie Lawrence versus Vince Cacero. I don't know how to pronounce his surname, so I'm going to change it every 10 seconds, but Ronnie Lawrence is taking on Vince Cacero on the card. Next up, great fight on the card, bantamweight bout. Ronnie Lawrence showed that he was very good on the Contender Series and also did it on short notice as well. He accepted that Contender Series bout on the day of the, on the week of the fight happening. He took that bout, stepped up, showed great cardio on short notice, said he wasn't really training for that bout either, so very good performance on short notice from him against a dangerous guy who had put some wins together. I know the guy that he beat didn't really look like a great opponent on paper. He was 11-5, Jose Johnson. Not the best record in the world, don't get me wrong, but he beat some good guys before the Contender Series. 2 good guys in a row, actually, before the Contender Series. He also had been on a bit of a win streak and lost a lot of his earlier fights in his career, so the record doesn't really tell the tale of how good the guy was, but still, Ronnie Lawrence went out there and showed him what wrestling was and just took him down at will whenever he wanted to, controlled him on the ground. It usually wouldn't be the Contender Series performance that would get him a contract. However, the fact that he took it on the week of the fight, and Dana White knew that and knew that he wasn't training as well, I think that's why they signed him up, because of what he did. He stepped up on short notice, and I think giving him a bit more of a camp here against Vince Cicero is going to do him quite well. I like Vince Cicero, however. He's a very good fighter. I just don't think the odds are crazy enough for me to even risk an underdog pick here with him. Great fighter, however. Lost his last bout to Jamal Lemmers. Beat a guy before then against Marvin Garcia was the guy's name that he beat. I don't really know how much credit to give that win, because Marvin Garcia, he has lost to everyone good that he's faced. And he's also beaten absolute nobodies his entire career and hasn't beaten a guy with a good record whatsoever to get 12-3 as his own record. He's a very much padded guy on the regional scene. And don't get me wrong, Vince Cicero got a win over him to get back and got himself into the UFC after losing some fights before then at LFA as well. I just don't see Ronnie Lawrence losing this one on a bit more of a camp. I think he takes down Cicero whenever he wants to. Controls it on the feet as well. He's got some great spinning kicks. He's got a spinning back kick finish in his career. But I just saw in a Jamal Lemmers fight with Vince Cicero that when Jamal Lemmers was on the feet doing well, he's a good stand-up guy. But when he went for takedowns, it was just too easy for Jamal Lemmers to just go for those takedowns. And I think if Jamal Lemmers can go for that B game, that plan B, and get those takedowns where he needs to get down Vince Cicero, I think Ronnie Lawrence has that ability as well. And purely because of the options that he has and the fact that he can fall back on that wrestling if things aren't going too well on the feet, I like his options more. And I'm going to be picking him as a favourite here. Ronnie Lawrence gets the job done by unanimous decision, 30-27, no finish. Moving on up the card, Raoni Barcelos versus Marcelo Rojo. Now, I'm sure Marcelo Rojo's a nice guy. I'm sure he is, and I'm sure he's a good fighter overall, and he's beat some good guys in his career. Not the greatest guys in his career, and those guys have some padded records here and there, but that's to be expected on the regional scene. I'm not really going to pound on his record too much. 16-6, beat some good guys. He's a decent fighter. He's just taking on Raoni Barcelos, though. And that's not going to work, in my opinion. And I think Raoni Barcelos is really badly going to hurt him. He's taking this one on very short notice. Raoni Barcelos has had a camp for a former opponent, got rescheduled, had another camp for another opponent. Now he's ready for this one against Marcelo Rojo. He's had the camp. Rojo has not. I think that Raoni Barcelos is going to get the job done here. And I would pick Raoni Barcelos regardless of what situation Rojo took this fight on. That's how highly I feel about Raoni Barcelos. A great fighter, great leg kicks in his last bout. He looked better than ever, even while being older than ever in his last bout, in his comeback against Khalid Taha. He'd been out for a while, just over a year, I believe, or just under a year. Then he came back, looked good. I was very glad to see it, because sometimes when you see these older guys getting out of their 30s or just starting to get into their mid-30s, it's a little bit worrying when they take time off, because you don't know what version of them's going to come back. But he looked amazing against Khalid Taha, and I think he would do work on Marcelo Rojo and destroy him by third round finish. I think I'll go for a submission win for Raoni Barcelos. I can see him getting him down in the third round after tagging up his legs and his body and his head in the first two. Rojo's going to start to slow down, and I think we could see a second round or third round submission for Raoni Barcelos. It's how Rojo's been finished before. He got finished by John Castaneda that way as well. I feel like Raoni Barcelos is going to go out there and get the job done by third round finish by submission after chewing up Rojo on the feet for ages. I'm sorry, Rojo. It's just Raoni Barcelos. He has wins over Said Nurmagomedov, which now looks really good because he went on to beat his next opponent by first round finish. He has a win over Chris Gutierrez, which also looks really good. Chris Gutierrez just won a fight a couple of weeks ago. He's got really good wins. He's got KO power. He's got submission ability. He submitted Gutierrez by rear naked choke. I'll say a late second round rear naked choke finish for Marcelo Rojo. No, not for Marcelo Rojo. What am I thinking here? For Raoni Barcelos, he gets a late second round submission by rear naked choke. He looked amazing in his last bout, and I think he's going to keep that momentum going and get the job done here against Rojo on short notice. It's a bit of a sacrificial lamb kind of fight, in my opinion. And also, I want to say, with all the fighters that have been missing weight recently, why are they signing Rojo, who missed weight in his last bout on the regionals? I don't know, but whatever, this is a catchweight bout anyway. Barcelos gets it done easily. Moving on up the card, Alonzo Menifield versus William Knight. Great fight, really good one. I don't like the technical ability of either of these men. I must say that before I get into my prediction here. I think they're both decently good. I don't see either of them going on to do too crazy a thing in the light heavyweight division, much as I did say about the earlier fight on the card with Jacoby versus Grishin. I like this fight being made. They're both dangerous. They both got KO power. I assume this is going to be somewhat entertaining, but I watched both of their fights recently. They aren't that good, you know, like he caught Paul Craig, Menifield caught Paul Craig going for 2 wheel kicks in a row and caught him on the chin. Good job, he has some good wins other than that against Vinicius Moreira, but now we know about Vinicius Moreira's dumbness and just patheticness. It kind of takes away that win from Alonzo Menifield a little bit. Paul Craig's gone on to do quite well, so that win actually looks pretty good in hindsight, but then again, what happens if Paul Craig doesn't throw 2 spinning wheel kicks in a row that slow? I don't even know what he was doing in that fight, but Menifield catches him, loses to Devin Clark. Really badly. Has a good first round, but the second and third round, he was just getting absolutely swarmed by Devin Clark. Way too much volume and output against the cage. Vicious knees from Devin Clark. Put the pressure on Alonzo Menifield, and we saw Alonzo Menifield start to gas out and fail in that fight in terms of cardio, and that's why he lost 29-28 to Devin Clark. However, in his next fight to OSP, he's coming off a KO loss now. That was a really bad KO, and I know he took a little bit of time off. I believe he's been out for about 5 months now. I just don't like the fact that he got slept with one punch like that by OSP, because OSP does not do that to a lot of contenders nowadays. Like, OSP will beat a contender here and there, but the contender will gas out, and the contender will get a little bit crazy with a finish, and they'll fall off of a submission, and OSP's on top of him, and now he's going for a submission. It's very rare that OSP just sleeps a guy nowadays, and I think that tells us about the skill level of Alonzo Menifield, because Jamahal Hill went on afterwards to just dismantle OSP, so I like both of them. They're both good. William Knight is also quite good. He had a good win against Alexa Kimura in his last bout. He won his fight on the Contender Series as well. He's actually had 2 attempts on the Contender Series, but I think I'm going to pick him here because both guys have the ability to switch things off in the first round, but I'm going to trust in the fact that if this does go past the first round, where it's 50-50 in my opinion, I can rely on William Knight's cardio a little bit better, because as much as he is a muscle-bound guy, as the same way Alonzo Menifield is, I feel like he's got much better cardio in the later rounds. And I know that it says that he got a win over Cody Brundage on the schedule by ground and pound in the first round, but the UFC is only a $4 billion company, so you can't expect him to get it right. So he actually got a finish in the third round of that fight, and it was a tough fight for him. Cody Brundage was out grappling him in the early rounds. Brundage is a great wrestler, so that's no shame there. He got out wrestled in the early rounds, was getting pieced up against the cage as well in the first and second. Then at the end of the second, he got a little bit of a takedown, got top position, landed some good shots. Then the third round came around, and he just had more in the tank than Cody Brundage, a grindy wrestler, and it showed me that William Knight has some gas in the tank. He finished Rocky Edwards by third round finish as well, not Leon Edwards, a different guy, it's just called Rocky. 12-9 bum, but either way, he beat another guy in the third round called Ala Quebec, who was 5-0 at the time. He's got some third round finishes. I'm going to rely on him getting those against Alonzo Menifield here this weekend. I think I'm going to pick William Knight to get the third round finish after Alonzo Menifield and him go to war in the first round, almost KO each other a bunch of times. William Knight will come out afterwards with momentum. He's got the cardio in the tank as well. I just think they're at 2 different positions in their career. Menifield's fighting for his career. Knight's trying to improve his resume and trying to get another bit of momentum. I don't see either guy getting a belt at any point in their career because they're a little bit too green and they're a little bit too old as well. But I think William Knight will secure this win by third round finish against Alonzo Menifield with more cardio in the tank. Moving on up the card, Alexis Davis versus Sabina Mazo. I've been watching, let me just say this before I even get into the prediction here. Was Ronda Rousey's career entirely rigged? Because every single fight I watch of Ronda Rousey's back in the day, there's no way these girls are that terrible. I just watch every single fight of Ronda Rousey's back in the day, and it seems like the girls that fight her literally put themselves in a position to lose immediately into the fight. It was so weird to watch, and I'm starting to smell bullshit on Ronda Rousey's career the more I watch her old fights now, because at the time I was a little bit oblivious to it, but now when I watch back, I'm like, why are you running into a clinch game like that? But whatever though, Alexis Davis lost to Ronda Rousey, is now on a 3-fight losing streak. They've all been pretty close though, to be fair, but she lost all of those fights in my opinion. Sabina Mazo, 9-1, younger girl, got the reach, got the youth. She's going to be improving more rapidly between fights. She's got a bunch of head kick KOs on her resume, hasn't really had any finishes in the UFC recently, but got a third round finish against Justin Kish. But other than that, not really too many finishes on her record recently other than that one. A lot of decisions, a lot of close ones. She lost to Marina Moroz, but Marina Moroz is a good fighter herself, 10-3. Young girl, 29, coming off a win against Mayra Bueno Silva as well, on her own win streak, and only lost to Angela Hill and Carla Esparza before that. I like Sabina Mazo here, getting the job done against Alexis Davis. However, I do respect Alexis Davis as a bit of a dog, in all honesty. She had a close fight with Chookagian. She did. And she does get beaten up badly, and she has a lot of scar tissue for a female as well, so she does bleed a little bit and swell up here and there, and I think that's going to be a huge factor in this one as well in terms of judging the fight. It's going to be against her because of all that scar tissue that she has. She bleeds a lot in her fights. I think Sabina Mazo is just going to be a little bit too technical on the feet, a little bit too crisp, use the reach advantage well that she has, and I think she'll dance around Alexis Davis for a 3-round decision, 30-27, barely outlanding Alexis Davis every single round. I feel like Alexis Davis is going on the end of her career, a little bit older. Mazo's just beginning her career at 23 years of age, nowhere near her prime. Going to be improving between each fight. I think she goes out there and gets a unanimous decision win. 30-27, schooling Davis on the feet for 3 rounds. Moving on up the card, Randy Brown versus Alex Oliveira. This card is amazing. This is also on the prelims. Great fight. I think Randy Brown's got this one in the bag, man. I think this is a close fight. The odds are very close as well, but I trust Randy Brown to get this one done. I know he's coming off a KO loss. Alex Oliveira coming off a guillotine loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov on short notice. Not on short notice even. He just lost to Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I actually picked Shavkat Rakhmonov to get the job done there because I thought he would. I thought he'd go out there and get the finish in the early rounds by guillotine. I believe I even called a guillotine finish. But still, Alex Oliveira, great fighter, got beaten by a young contender in Romanov last fight, or Shavkat, whatever his name is. I can't even remember off the top of my head, but he lost to that guy last time. Had some good fights before them, but lost again before that. Like, he just seems to be in that point in his career where it's win some, lose some, win some, lose some. I don't think Randy Brown's at that point in his career. You know what I mean? Because even when Alex Oliveira wins fights nowadays, there's never like a big stamp on it. You know what I mean? Like, if he does win a fight, it's because he barely got the better of a position in the 3rd round and ended up on top in the grappling exchange and won it because of that. Like, it's all too close for me with Alex Oliveira. And I look at Randy Brown's career. He's still young, 30 years of age. You've got time in the welterweight division still to go. He's not going to be 31 until July, so maybe he wins this one, wins one more, and then he's looking at ranked opponents before he turns 31. He's still got time in his career. He's got the chance here to go out there and beat a big name in Alex Oliveira, and I think he will pass with flying colours. He's got the reach advantage. He's got the height advantage, which is a much bigger deal than the reach because his leg reach is going to be crazy in this bout compared to Alex Oliveira. And Oliveira likes to use those front kicks, but I don't know if he's going to be able to win that front kick game with Randy Brown, who's got those long legs. He's got the range advantage. I think he'll go out there and just school Alex Oliveira. And I think I could actually see a finish happening here because he does finish a lot of his fights that he wins. He did go to a decision with Mickey Gall, don't get me wrong, but Mickey Gall's the GOAT himself, so, you know, tough guy to finish, you know what I'm saying? But even still, I think he goes out there, maybe gets a submission win in the 2nd round over Alex Oliveira. I think Alex Oliveira is going to be hurt on the feet, and I'll call a guillotine again on Alex Oliveira. I feel like sometimes when he's hurt, he shoots sloppy takedowns, leaves his neck in bad situations. I'll call a 2nd guillotine loss in a row for Alex Oliveira after Randy Brown starts tagging him with some hard shots on the feet, because even against Vicente Luque, which is Randy Brown's last loss in his career, where he got KO'd in the 2nd by a knee, he started to do quite well in the 2nd round, and Vicente Luque, in my opinion, is such a dark horse in the welterweight division. For me to see you doing good against him in the 2nd, after eating that many leg kicks that Randy Brown ate, he got dropped in that fight, he got his legs chewed up, and he was still doing decently good in the 2nd round, come that finish. Eventually got finished against the cage with that knee, but I think he'll bounce back here against Alex Oliveira. He's taken 6.5 months off. I think he's given it enough time, and he'll come back with a vengeance here and finish Alex Oliveira in the 2nd round by submission. Those long arms are going to latch up a guillotine, maybe an arm-in guillotine or a dash choke, I don't even know. I'll finish on a guillotine, though, in the 2nd round for Randy Brown. He's got a good win over Wale Alves, which now looks even better since Wale Alves beat Munhoz Lazzez. I'm going to go with Randy Brown here, getting the job done. Better on the feet, better cardio, younger guy, way less damage in his career. I think he's just going to get it done on attrition, and then Oliveira's going to shoot once he's too hurt and get submitted. Moving on up the card, Alexander Hernandez versus Thiago Moises on the prelims. This is how good the card is. Now, I know this one should be on the main card, and it's absolutely blasphemous that it's not on the main card. However, Alexander Hernandez versus Thiago Moises is an amazing fight. I'm looking forward to it. Alexander Hernandez coming off a big win over Chris Gutteschmacher, if I believe his name. Gutteschmacher? Yep, it was actually Gutteschmacher. I wasn't just making up a name. That actually is his fucking name, for fuck's sake. He beat Chris Gutteschmacher in his last fight by first round finish with hooks. I called that he would get a first round finish over Gutteschmacher because if you give him that much of an advantage, Alexander Hernandez, he will make you pay for it early with a good finish. So Alexander Hernandez, great fighter. He's coming up against Thiago Moises, equally great fighter who's lost to some great guys that there's no shame in losing to. Demir Ismagulov, where are you? He was some absolute savage in the division, 18-1 at the time that he fought Thiago Moises. Completely disappeared now. I have no idea what's going on with him. Lost to Beneil Dariush as well, who Alexander Hernandez beat. But I know a lot of people see that fight with Hernandez and Dariush as not really a big win for Hernandez, because he kind of faked a glove touch, threw a front kick, big right hand, fight's over. It was a good win in the first round, however, you've got to admit. First round KO for Alexander Hernandez, regardless of the situation of him stepping up on short notice or what he did at the start of the fight with the glove touch or anything. I think he was just trying to find range as well, by the way, but still, he got a first round KO over Beneil Dariush. That's really big. That is a really big win, especially now that we see Dariush go out there against Diego Ferreira. Like, Ferreira didn't KO Dariush in the first round. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Hernandez is actually a really good fighter, and I think a lot of people hate on him a little bit because of the Cerrone situation, which I agree. Maybe he should get a little bit of slack for what he was talking like before that fight, but I'll tell you this. If he went out there and KO'd Cerrone, everyone would be all over him as the next contender. Like, I'm just going to say it how it is. Alexander Hernandez, great fighter. I think he's got personality as well. I'm looking forward to this bout. He's got the reach advantage over Moises. It's close. It's very close. But I feel like Moises just can't submit a certain level of opponent. And I've seen Alexander Hernandez grapple for 3 rounds with Olivier Aubin-Mercier, who's no joke in the grappling department himself. And Hernandez was absolutely fine to grapple with Olivier Aubin-Mercier. And out-grappled him for 3 rounds. Out-grinded him. Out-hustled him. Olivier had some close submission attempts at one point, but he got out of it, removed himself. Hernandez, very calculated in his grappling game, showed great cardio against OAM as well. Put it on him in the 3rd round and got a massive strike differential there. He was a very good fighter. I think he's improving massively as well. And I think getting that 1st round KO over Gutteschmacher, he's going to get a lot of momentum and confidence going into this one against Moises. And I think he shuts Moises' lights out in the 1st round. I really do. I know not a lot of people like Hernandez, but I think he's good. I think he's really good. And I think Dober's also pretty good. And I think he's ranked level. I don't think Thiago Moises is quite ranked level enough. I did not think he won his last fight against Bobby Green whatsoever. I'm just going to say it. I didn't think he won that fight at all. He pretty much got doubled in every single round on significant strikes in that bout. I know he had one moment where he had a bit of a heel hook or something in on Bobby Green, but it wasn't really in. Green escaped it. Like, I don't know how they gave the round to Thiago Moises. He landed some big shots that looked like they rocked Bobby Green, but I feel like Hernandez just gives guys too much to think about on the feet. And Thiago Moises in the Michael Johnson fight showed just too much of an acceptance to take shots in the 1st round to get to his game plan in the 2nd and 3rd. And I don't think you can take those same shots in the 1st round against a young guy with confidence in his power, with Alexander Hernandez, who chops at the legs, goes upstairs, throws head kicks, throws body kicks, throws front kicks, throws everything basically at you. He's a very versatile guy. He's basically a lightweight Dillashaw, in my opinion. I think he goes out there and gets Thiago Moises out of there in the 1st round by KO. Hernandez gets it done with some momentum. 1st round finish. And I'll call the shot as well, maybe. I think he'll go out there, land some good shots against Moises. Moises will back up against the cage. And I think Hernandez lands another combination finish, like he did against Chris Gutteschmacher, with a bunch of hooks and gets to KO in the 1st round. I think he just goes hook, 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 hook. Down goes Moises. 1st round finish for Hernandez. Moving on up the card. Alex Caceres versus Kevin Croom on the main card of this. I love this one for the memes, for everything. Both guys have pretty bad records overall, don't get me wrong. They're pretty much BMF records. Only BMFs have records like this, you know what I'm saying? 21-12 for Kevin Croom, actually a worse record. 17-12 for Alex Caceres. But I feel like Kevin Croom's record and Alex Caceres' record, they're both the same thing. They both have the same kind of careers. But Caceres' has been in the UFC the entire time. You know what I mean? Kevin Croom will lose a close fight in his career to Adil Benjelani, or win a close fight against Adil Benjelani in his career. And Caceres will make it close against Yair Rodriguez. You know what I mean? There's just two different areas of who they're up against and how they're looking against those opponents. I think Caceres is a little bit underrated. We learned that about the Chase Hooper fight as well. He went out there, beat Chase Hooper. Now, did we learn that Chase Hooper's arguably not the best in the world in that fight? Yes, we all got reminded of that, but he beat Steven Peterson, a good recorded guy. He beat Austin Springer as well. I just don't see Kevin Croom going out there and posing much threat to Alex Caceres in the bout. Caceres has got great stand-up, great jiu-jitsu. He got a quick submission in his last fight by a rear naked choke against a decent opponent who was 12-3 at the time, Austin Springer. I think Kevin Croom's going to go out there, try and start fast, end up blowing his wad in the first round, trying to get an early finish, and I think Caceres will take over as the fight goes on, earning himself a close and competitive 29-28 unanimous decision. Caceres on a 3-fight win streak right now. He's actually younger than Kevin Croom, which is surprising because Croom's the newcomer. I just know that both of them have had a similar career, but Caceres has been doing it against top contenders in the UFC and good fighters in the UFC. You know what I mean? Like Uriah Faber, Yair Rodriguez, Kron Gracie as well. I know he lost to Cub Swanson, but still, that's a good fighter right there. You know, like he's done what Croom has done, just at two very different levels of skill. One in the UFC, one in regional bum shows. I think Caceres goes out there and gets this done. However, the odds are daring people to pick Kevin Croom. He is a bit of a dog here, and I think they're asking people to put money on Kevin Croom. So the odds that I'm seeing there, I like that for Kevin Croom. The odds that he wins are kind of likely, and those odds do not display how this fight goes, in my opinion. Caceres should not be that much of a favourite. He was just an underdog not too long ago against Chase Hooper, for God's sake. What changed? One submission win over Austin Springer. Even still, I think Caceres wins, so I'm not going to pick the dog. I only pick underdogs if I think they're going to win. So I'm going to go with Alex Caceres getting the job done. 29-28 unanimous decision. Wins the second and third round. Moving on up the card, Angela Hill versus Ashley Yoder. Recent addition to the card. Actually got added a couple of days ago. Angela Hill, I believe, easily wins. Let's be real. Unless the judges get her again. But they were close fights with Michelle Waterson and her other opponent. But, you know, I feel like Angela Hill clearly wins this one. Let's be real, guys. Ashley Yoder's okay. They're 12-9 and 8-6. That is embarrassing, man. Jesus. Wow, that is a bad set of records right there. But Ashley Yoder, good fighter. Decent, coming off a win right now in her last fight and looked maybe like the best she's looked overall against Miranda Granger. Got a win. I guess it was a close fight, but she secured top position. She actually secured a lot of top position against Angela Hill in their fight as well. Took her down a couple of times ages ago, however. But Angela Hill got the job done and outstruck her every single round on significant strikes. I just feel like Angela Hill's improved way more over the past couple of years than Ashley Yoder has, and I think Angela Hill actually looks like she can fight, and Ashley Yoder doesn't, so there's not much technical stuff to break down here. Angela Hill looks like a professional fighter at times. Yoder doesn't have a clue what she's doing. She's just in women's MMA, so she can get away with it. But Angela Hill gets the win here, in my opinion, pretty comfortably. I don't see her getting a finish. I'm done picking Angela Hill to finish fights because she doesn't seem to do it too often unless against a certain caliber of opponent or a doctor stoppage due to a cut against Ariane Carnelosi. I think I'll go with a decision win, dominant decision win, all 3 rounds to Angela Hill, stuffing the takedowns, just beating up Ashley Yoder on the feet for 3 rounds to a 30-27 unanimous decision win. I thought Angela Hill won both of her fights, especially against Claudia Gadelha. The Michelle Waterson fight is close, but the Claudia Gadelha fight is like top 5 robberies of 2020, in my opinion. That was terrible. She won the second and third round, and I don't see her losing to Ashley Yoder here whatsoever. She gets an easy win. This is safe money, in my opinion, on Angela Hill. Moving on up the card, Pedro Munhoz versus Jimmie Rivera 2, the rematch on the main card. Looking forward to this one. I actually broke it down not too long ago, so I'll go over what I've already talked about. I know what I saw in the first fight between these two. When Jimmie Rivera was 25 and Pedro Munhoz was 29, I know what I saw between these two. I saw Jimmie Rivera beat him, and it could have been 30-27. I know that Pedro Munhoz caught him in the second round, had some good moments here and there where it looked like he might have clipped Rivera with a big shot, but overall it was just Jimmie Rivera winning the fight in round 3 and 1. Round 2 could go to Munhoz. I thought I had it clearly to Jimmie Rivera in that fight, just being a little bit better in the boxing exchanges, and that's when Rivera was a young guy and Munhoz was in his prime. now Rivera's in his prime, and Munhoz is past it, in my opinion. Like, to be honest with you, looking back, the fact that he made it close against Frankie Edgar is not good. You know what I mean? Seeing what Corey Sandhagen did to Frankie Edgar. Now, I know that it's a flying knee KO, and Edgar was... And you can't really tell too much about how dominant a win is when it happens like that. But still, the fact that Munhoz couldn't put down Edgar with a punch, or just... the fact that it was close annoyed me. I know that Pedro Munhoz won that fight very clearly. Very clearly won that fight, in my opinion, against Frankie Edgar, 4-1. But I'm definitely going to be picking Jimmie Rivera to get the job done here. I think he's improved more than Pedro Munhoz. I see Pedro Munhoz's game plan. I watched his last fight with Jimmie Rivera. Jimmie Rivera looks like a different guy. Looks a little bit better in every area. Pedro Munhoz looks like the same guy. And if he doesn't get 5 rounds, his game plan typically doesn't work in time, because he chops down at the legs, puts the pressure on guys. Give him 5 rounds, he'll get to you in the later ones. But it's just, with Jimmie Rivera, I feel like in a 3-rounder he's going to be okay. He pushed a good pace against Jan in the 3rd round. He was doing good against Jan in the 1st and 2nd round. I don't see Pedro Munhoz having the grappling heavy style that you need to really pin Rivera against the cage with, like Aljamain Sterling did. And like Jimmie Rivera's chances to go out there and just piece apart Pedro Munhoz for 3 rounds, barely outlanding him most rounds, but just schooling him on the feet, outlanding him, beating him every round on significant strikes. I don't see Pedro Munhoz getting a takedown here. He needs guys to shoot on him, and I think his one chance is to maybe clip Jimmie Rivera on the chin, but Jimmie Rivera is aware of that. Looked great in his last fight against Cody Stamann. Did very well there against a good grappler. Showed that he's improved his wrestling defense. Did well against Jan in a loss. Lost to Sterling quite badly. Did well against Dodson, beat him. Got KO'd by Marlon Moraes, but like, that's what happens in Moraes fights. You either get KO'd in the 1st round, or you beat him in the 2nd round or 3rd when he gasses out. But still, I feel like Jimmie Rivera is way better than Pedro Munhoz. I like Pedro Munhoz, don't get me wrong, and I feel bad that he got robbed by Frankie Edgar, but 25 years of age, Jimmie Rivera schooled him a little bit in a fight. Unanimous decision, very clear. Maybe lost the 2nd round because he got clipped behind the ear with a big punch, but now he's in his prime. Munhoz is out of it. I think Rivera's the safe bet here. And the odds are quite close, which is surprising after what I saw in the first fight. So I'm definitely going to go with Jimmie Rivera getting the job done. Unanimous decision. I'll say 30-27. I think he does every single round. Moving on up the card to the feature fight. Montana De La Rosa versus Mayra Bueno Silva. No bueno. No bueno. Why is this the feature fight? But whatever. Alexander Hernandez on the prelims. All good. Make way for 11-6 Montana De La Rosa on the main card. But Montana De La Rosa, good fighter. I'm just going to go with... I'm going to go with Mayra Bueno Silva. She's got good submission skills. She's submitting girls that other girls are just controlling. And she's winning fights against people that do better against other competition that I know is good. I know Taylor Santos is good, and she controlled Gillian Robertson on the ground for 3 rounds. Mayra Bueno Silva goes out there and gets a quick win by armbar in the 1st. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different in submission ability, in my opinion, and I don't see Montana De La Rosa going out there and getting this win. I think I'll go with a submission win for Mayra Bueno Silva here. She's always getting submissions. She got a submission in her last win by armbar. She got a submission against Gillian Robertson by armbar. She got a ninja choke against Mayna Souza. I mean, she's got great submissions. She got an armbar earlier in her career as well. It seems like that's her favourite one. So I think I'll pick an armbar submission for Mayra Bueno Silva in the 1st round. She's dangerous off of her back. She's a good fighter overall. She's only lost to Marina Moroz, who's not a bad fighter overall, 10-3 on a 2-fight win streak. Beat Sabina Mazo, who we just talked about on this card. I feel like Mayra Bueno Silva's going to go out there and get a submission win over the Montana De La Rosa. De La Rosa's still young, 26 years of age. I just don't see any improvement when I watch her fight. Like, against Vivian Araújo, a close fight, don't get me wrong, but like, I think Mayra Bueno Silva's going to get the submission over her. She's just a little bit better overall. She looks more technical with her grappling, and I think Montana De La Rosa's going to shit the bed in the feature fight and lose to Mayra Bueno Silva by submission in the 1st round via armbar. Moving on to the co-main event. I'm picking Ankalaev. This is risky though. Nikita Krylov versus Magomed Ankalaev on the co-main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 20. Great fight, don't get me wrong. Very, very competitive bout, and I think the odds are crazy. The odds are fucking crazy. Ankalaev being a 2-1 favourite would be like, I don't know. Like, this is a very close fight. I know that Ankalaev got a big win over Ion Cutelaba in his last bout, but Cutelaba was throwing spinning shit. He was trying to do a front back fist to a left hook. Like, it was a very weird IQ moment from Ion Cutelaba, but Magomed Ankalaev capitalised, got the first round KO. He's got power in the first round, but he had a decently close fight with Dalchalungambula as long as it lasted until the third where he took over. But he did quite well in that fight. Don't get me wrong, he won it, but still, I'm saying there's competitiveness that we have seen in his career. Klidson Fariasti-Abreu might have snuck around off of him. You know what I mean? But, of course, Magomed Ankalaev gets the job done in the rounds that he needs to and gets the win there. But he got clipped in that fight by Klidson Fariasti-Abreu. Marcin Prachnio, he got a win over, which is a decent win looking back because Prachnio just beat Khalil Roundtree. The Paul Craig fight that he lost, it's El Kaklifi. He's going to submit the Dagestani or Chechenian guy, but still, he was doing not so good in that fight in certain moments. He was winning the fight overall, don't get me wrong, but Craig would get a couple of takedowns and score some top control and get a reversal here and there. It was not as dominant as people remember. It was not like Ankalaev was 10-8 rounding Paul Craig every round. It was not that way whatsoever. Craig was doing okay. He was losing. He eventually got a submission at the end with 1 second to go. In an alternate universe, Magomed Ankalaev is completely undefeated and an absolute savage, and I think he is still an absolute savage in this universe. Krylov is good, 28 years of age, still young, got a good win over Johnny Walker, a good win over Ovin St. Preux. I'd say he's beaten better opponents in his last few wins than Magomed Ankalaev. But I think Magomed Ankalaev's going to go out there and get it done. He's got great stand-up, great power, all the momentum's on his side right now, and I think he does go out there and chin Nikita Krylov. Do I see him chinning Nikita Krylov, though? That's the big question. I think I do. I think I could see him chinning Nikita Krylov in the later rounds. We saw Nikita Krylov slow down in the first OSP fight. He got a little bit sloppy against Johnny Walker in certain moments, and Walker was able to reverse positions and end up on top. And it wasn't as dominant as other guys that we've seen fight Johnny Walker, like Corey Anderson smoking him in the first round. I think there's some abilities in Magomed Ankalaev's game that he can win the grappling exchanges, maybe even avoid them altogether, and do well on the feet against Nikita Krylov. I am going to side with him, but he is a ridiculous fucking favourite. That's over a 3-1 favourite. That is just... He should barely be a 2-1 favourite in my opinion. So if you want to make some money, bet on Nikita Krylov. I don't see him winning the fight. I think Ankalaev's a little bit too well versed and he's improving more and more every time. I feel like Nikita Krylov, although being the same age as Magomed Ankalaev, has had a much longer career and has had a lot more battle testing fights where he's taken some damage. He's been hurt in fights. He's been finished in fights. I feel like we've maybe seen Nikita Krylov's peak. I know he looks like he's improving. He actually had a decent fight with Glover Teixeira, who's now a top contender in the light heavyweight division, and almost won that one, but lost it by split decision. But still, I thought Teixeira won the fight, but still, I don't think we're seeing Krylov make too many improvements, and I feel like we are seeing Ankalaev make some improvements between his fight with Paul Craig, compared to his fight with Klidson Fariasti-Abreu, compared to his fight with Ion Cutelaba, where he smoked him in the first round. The improvement is there on the side of Ankalaev. I think he gets this one done in the co-main event. Now moving on to the main event of this card. Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Ciryl Gane. I am going to go with Ciryl Gane, and I'm going to change the way I pronounce his name to the correct way of doing it. Ciryl Bongamin Gane. Very good fighter. Had a little bit of time off since December, but got right back in there pretty much. 3-month turnaround, 3.5-month turnaround. Nothing too crazy. Gets back in there. Very active right now, beat JDS, and it's crazy to think that both of these guys' last opponents were JDS. That's how active JDS has been being KO'd by people. It's crazy how quickly JDS takes these fights, but still, great performance by Jairzinho Rozenstruik against JDS. Great performance by Ciryl Gane against JDS. I think I'm going to use that fight to try and predict this one, and I'm picking Ciryl Gane to get the job done by TKO in the second or third round. I think he's just really, really good. Really technically good, and it's not often you see technical heavyweights, and we're starting to see more and more of them. Dalkaus is looking good, Aspinall is looking good, but Gane is looking better than all of them, and I think he's the next guy to make a real run at being a top contender. He's already beaten JDS, but JDS was on a bit of a losing streak, coming off a KO loss to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, took a short notice bout turnaround against Ciryl Gane. Not a very smart decision, but Gane in that fight with JDS, compared to the Rozenstruik one. Rozenstruik JDS in the first round, both guys landed their shots. Rozenstruik won the round, don't get me wrong, but both guys landed good shots. A little bit even on the feet. JDS landed some good shots. Rozenstruik landed more. Edged himself out the first round. Eventually catching JDS in the second when he put his back against the cage like he always does. But Ciryl Gane in their fight was just like... It was like JDS wasn't even there. From what I saw, Ciryl Gane was just schooling him on the feet. Start to finish, I think he times him by 4 in significant strikes in the first round. He's just so much better than these other guys technically. And I think it's going to be very obvious in there against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who is good, don't get me wrong, but just nowhere near the level of Ciryl Gane. They still have him listed at 6'4". How is he listed at 6'4" still? We have watched his weigh-ins. He's 5'11". He might be 6 foot tall. He might be 6 foot. He's not 6'4". Why is that constantly there? This is a $4 billion company. Figure it out. I don't understand. He's still listed at 6'4". He's nowhere near that. Ciryl Gane is a legit 6'4" guy, 83-inch reach, crazy reach in the UFC. You never really see a reach like that. 78-inch reach for Jairzinho Rozenstruik. That gives Ciryl Gane 5 inches to work with here in terms of a reach advantage. And I think being a guy of his level and caliber in terms of range control and distance management, I think he's going to use that 5 inches very well. And I think he'll get the job done against Jairzinho Rozenstruik by second round TKO. I'll call like a kick to the body. I think he'll kick Jairzinho to that fat, fluffy body and get the TKO in the second round after landing some shots afterwards. I think it will be a body shot though. Jairzinho keeps his hands up very high. I think his hands are going to be a little bit higher against Gane because he knows he's fighting a striker and not someone who's going to want to take him down. But then again, I think we've seen more in the ground game of Ciryl Gane than we have in Jairzinho Rozenstruik. The guy has 2 submissions in his career so far, one over Rafael Pessoa, who's a jiu-jitsu guy, and also one against Dante Almeida in the 3rd round, basically just because he felt like doing it, and I feel like he's just a different level than some of these other heavyweights right now. And that's my guy to look out for as maybe becoming the next champion in the division. It's him, it's all these other guys on the rise, but right now he's emerged at the top of the pack against JDS in his last performance. Has looked flawless in the UFC so far. Jairzinho Rozenstruik is good, but I'm noticing like a difference in opponents. He basically lost the Overeem fight, you know? And I know that Gane would not lose to Overeem. I know that. He almost lost the Rozenstruik fight. He almost lost the Overeem fight, Jairzinho Rozenstruik did. Was losing the entire time. Won a round, I believe, here or there. Lost the majority of the rounds. Landed a big punch at the end of round 5. Little bit of an early stoppage, but whatever. His lip was busted open. It's all good. Stoppage happened. Jairzinho got his hand raised. I know for a fact that Ciryl Gane would dust up Overeem like he's a bitch. I know that. And I think that's the difference between a pair of them. I just know what Ciryl Gane can do, and he's just a different level than these other heavyweights. He's got footwork. He fights like a lightweight, a heavyweight. He genuinely does. He's got footwork. He's got feints. He's got range. He's very good. Ciryl Gane gets a second round TKO. See you later, guys. Click that button up there. Logic will prevail this card. I'm calling it right now. These last few cards, no logic allowed. Underdogs only. Logic will prevail. I guarantee you this. There's no way Lightning can continue to strike in the same areas over and over again. Logic will prevail, okay? And Grishin is the only dog on the card. I guarantee you. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later.